Welcome to The Machine, a podcast from Waterford Institute of Technology. My name is Rob O'Connor. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Computing and Mathematics here in WIT. I'm joined in the studio today by Eamonn de Leastar, Colm Dunphy, and also two students. We have Sarah Barron and Bernard Thompson, and we're going to discuss the student experience of online learning, particularly in the context of a course that we have running here. So first off, you're all very welcome.
Thank you.
Before we begin, I thought it might be nice, before we get into the nitty-gritty things, I thought it might be nice to maybe look at the background as to where both of ye kind of came from and how it is that you ended up studying in WIT through a kind of a non-traditional route, as we say. And maybe Sarah, we'll start with yourself.
Okay, so I suppose it was over 20 or nearly 20 years ago, I did a computer degree course in Carlow IT in networking. And just after that, I got married quite young, and my husband was had a permanent job here in Waterford. So there wasn't the opportunities that there is now to get into that kind of area. So I ended up just getting a job to pay the bills in the local credit union. And then 6 years ago, I had 3 kids under the age of 3, so I decided to give up work to take care of them.
Sorry, you didn't give up work.
No, I didn't give up work, no. It was harder staying at home. So now the 3 of them have started back in school, so it's my time to get back into the workforce again and to upgrade the skills that I've learned over the last few years.
And you wanted to get back into IT, was it?
Yeah. Well, originally I had no intention of going back to college at all. One day I was looking at Facebook, and as Facebook does, gives you an ad, and it had a 5-day coding challenge. So I did it, and I just loved it, and it brought back memories of when I was in college, that was one of the subjects that I did like. And so the Code Institute got in contact with me, and I signed up to their course, which was an online course as well. It was it's equivalent to level 6 here. It's credit rated by Edinburgh University. But so then from there I decided I loved that so much that I'd continue on with the level 8 here in the college.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, and during that intervening years, the interview from when you were in college first to when you went back, had you, I know you said you were working in the credit union, had you been engaged in any IT activities?
Not really, bar in the credit union. I would have looked after the website. Anything that kind of came up with web or any that kind of area, I would have been hands up. I want to do that. I did love it, but just back then the opportunities for a graduate around Waterford wasn't there. You had to have lots of experience and stuff like that. So I just got a job to pay the bills, and that was it. Yeah. So now I have the opportunity to get back into that area. Okay,
and we'll pick up that thread in a few moments. We'll go to Bernard now. So Bernard, what's your story? Where did you come from? How did you end up in this?
Yeah, so
game?
I done my Leaving Cert in 2000. I went to the Tech in Waterford for a year IT course, which I dropped out after 2 months because being young, 17, I was just like, I just want money to go out weekends and stuff. So I dropped out of that. I got a job in retail. I stuck at that for 5 years. At that 5 years I was kind of bored at that, so I decided to join the army for a while. Didn't really like that either. Dropped out of that. Then I got a job in Waterford Airport, so I got into aviation. During my time there, I was involved in the sports club. We wanted to build a website for it, and I was like, I don't know how to go about building a website, so we didn't want to pay the money for it. So I done a 10-week course in WIT, which was a personal development, web development course. Done that, created a small, I thought at the time it was this great website, but when I look back on it, it was kind of terrible. So I created that, and then after 3 years after that, I suppose, things changed in Waterford Airport. They were hit big time by the recession and that, and I was placed on, week off. So I decided things weren't going well out there, so only I could change it. So that's when I looked at returning to education. And I completed a BSc in IT level 7 part-time then in WIT. And at the end of that course then I was looking to do a level 8, and that's when I came onto the HDip then. So I had no IT experience prior within the working world or anything outside that, but I liked IT. Like, I liked playing computer games, playing the PlayStation. If something broke, I liked to take it apart and fix it, whether that was the washing machine or a computer or a mobile phone. So that's where I got my interest in IT out of that. So I said I'd go back and look at something that I thought I was interested in. I am interested in from doing the few courses I've done.
Now, on this podcast, we try not to do kind of a hard sell of programs, but we are going to talk about the HDip for reasons that you're both non-traditional students, in that you haven't come directly from kind of Leaving Cert into this, although increasingly our first year full-time intake are not from Leaving Cert either, but that's a changing demographics and a whole other podcast that we might do another day. So maybe, now we have done a podcast on this before that I can put a link to in the show notes for this one. So maybe Eamonn, will go to yourself. What is the course that the lads have signed up to?
So it's a professional qualification. Sometimes they call this type of course, it's called a conversion course. So it's bring people from other disciplines into software development. Our ideal target is an entry-level programmer role after the period on the course with us. It's a Springboard funded and it's fully online. So the students rarely come on campus. We bring them on a few times a year, but they're usually either watching recordings or taking live sessions with us on a weekly basis.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop you there. What's the full name of the course, the full title?
A high diploma in computer science.
Okay, now you also brought in a word there that I'm going to go back to, which was Springboard. Now, anyone with a memory might remember Springboard, and I remember a dreaded acronym, LMA, Labour Market Activation. And during the depths of the recession, there were these Springboard courses popping up all over the country that were to do with bringing down the numbers in the live register, getting people back to education, etc., etc. It has morphed over the years, so maybe you might give us a kind of a bit of a context as to what has gone on here.
Yes, about 10 years ago when we started the course, and it was in the LMA realm, I think we wouldn't be quite as cynical as saying it's bringing down the numbers. So it's morphed, as you say, from labour activation to skills conversion, and moving people from possibly aspects of the economy that maybe aren't in demand, or moving people who have a vocation to move elsewhere into the IT realm and programming in particular. So in Springboard, the rules have changed. In fact, when we started, you needed to be unemployed. Now it's the exact opposite. You must be in employment. Except actually, in some cases, as in Sarah's case here, the Back to Education scheme is also available in certain circumstances.
Yeah, but Sarah's a full-time carer essentially.
Yeah.
Like, so, as anyone who has ever had any experience of that will tell you, that is more than a full-time job. You probably come in here for a break.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's just talk about the skills shortage that you've mentioned, and we bring it up every now and again, but maybe could you again give us a little bit of context as to what that is. Like, we hear about it all the time, and you hear people banging on the radio about, the skills shortage, but what does it actually mean?
If you think about this room we're in, the software running in about 20 devices in this room, I would think, and software is imbued now in our homes, in all our equipment. It's not just our computer and our phone anymore. It's your television, your washing machine, your dishwasher, the whole shooting match. So the number of programmers in the world is thought to be between 50 and 100 million. I was talking about earlier on. And these
are the number of professional programmers.
Professional programmers, yeah. And it's growing at a phenomenal rate. And there's no sign of it ending yet. Now, that creates major challenges in terms of equipping people with the right skills, even those who enter the profession, maintaining their skills, and addressing, I guess, basic needs of an economy now at this point.
And particularly in Ireland's context, because Ireland is very heavily invested economically and socially, and you could argue even culturally now, in the ICT industry.
Yes, it's part of the whole drive to the knowledge economy and the like. And we have a lot of people coming in abroad with those skills, but we think we have people in Ireland too who can acquire those skills through programs like this and others. There are other programs in this realm.
Colm, have you anything to add to that? Because you've been working with Springboard courses now for a number of years, and you're heavily involved in this HDip as well. Have you noticed anything about the profile of student changing over the years?
Oh, it's so broad and so wide. We've had students with financial background, with art background, architects, engineers, particularly coming onto this programme. And they've had such a diverse background. But they come on here because, right, they see that the job space, particularly in the southeast. We have a hub now for software development. Lots of startup companies in particular, and very large ones. It's a real success story. What's it called? The Valley. Valley.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Or Crystal Valley.
Crystal Valley Tech.
Yeah, Sure Valley is the real
Have to get a mention for Crystal Valley Tech.
Yeah.
I think they've got something like a register of 110 companies, I think, at this stage for the southeast region.
So that's an umbrella group that advocates for ICT in the region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every one of those companies is hiring. They're all looking for new people. And a lot of those companies, are staffed from graduates from either Waterford IT or Carlow, and they're, looking to their alma mater to bring on the next recruitment. So, there's plenty of opportunity. I suppose the other number that sticks in my head that's been around for a long time is on any given day, I think in Ireland, for as long as I can remember, there's 7,000 vacancies in software development.
I'd say there's more now. I remember that figure. Remember back in the depths of the recession.
And it was about that
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I'd say it's more now.
So, there's plenty of opportunity here, and there's lots of different roles that you can go into.
Yeah.
But our program is trying to produce, as Eamonn said, a junior developer programmer. We make no apologies for its programming. It's not all the other stuff. It's programming. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk then about the way that their course is structured, and this will be true of other online courses. Okay, and I suppose let's make the distinction between an online course and an offline course. How does an online course differ from, say, what would be a traditional full-time undergraduate course? Maybe Colm, you might go with that as well.
Okay, so if you're attending college like you normally would, your hours are generally going to be between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday. Okay, that's a full-time course. If you're doing a part-time course, maybe some of those hours are at night, or maybe some of them are at the weekend.
So this would have been like what Bernard did when he did the BSc in IT. Yeah.
And generally you go to lectures. Maybe there's some practicals that you do as well, and there's an assignment to do, and you do that, and that's generally the course. So you can kind of just be there in body at classes, and then worry about catching it up later when you're doing your assignments. Online course, very, very different. Should kind of maybe break out. There's different types of online course, and one of the things we would do when we interview students to come onto this program is find out what they think online is. For a lot of people, online is, I'll watch a few videos, and maybe there's an exercise at the end. And the videos, maybe for a week's worth of classes, might be an hour or two. That's very different to what we're offering. Okay, what we're offering is we had a full-time program that took a whole week in 1 year, and now we offer that in a more flexible mode, which is that you can do that course that used to take a year over 2 years. Now, if you do the numbers on that, what was taking 40 hours a week should probably take you 20 hours a week over 2 years, and that's a very big commitment. A lot of online courses that maybe you might take casually, it's maybe 2 or 3 hours. This is 15 to 20 hours a week. So that's a message that we're trying to inform any people who are going to take up this program. It's not a light option. Just because it says it's available online, it's not easy. Okay, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and part of the philosophy around our delivery would be, technical term is kind of constructivist. They're building something all the time. So you're not kind of necessarily passively consuming information. You're engaged in what we call labs. And in those labs, you're actively participating and creating your own knowledge, as opposed to just consuming and remembering material.
So could you maybe describe what a lab is? Because if I was listening out to lab, what, you have to put on the white coat and at home, is it? So
yeah, well, you could wear that if you like. But usually it's we have a specific objective. We're going to build a little program to do something.
Yes.
Maybe to do 3 or 4 things. We're going to guide you through the step-by-steps to do 3 of those. We're going to ask you to do the 4th thing. And we're providing the supporting material. It could be video or reference material to give you the knowledge to do that. You do your best. And then in the next lab, we'll finish it, show you what you should have done. Maybe you did it already, and we build our knowledge path in that sequence. And almost all our modules are designed in that mode.
So the first step of Lab 2 might be the fourth step of Lab 1.
Could be, yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so let's go back to Sarah and Bernard now. So Sarah, we were having a cup of coffee before we started recording, and we were talking about the lies of part-time and full-time, or the misconception.
Yeah.
You know, because somebody thinks part-time, full-time, you maybe have older views of what that is. How did you find that?
Yeah, I suppose that's one of the comments that was made within the classes. I thought this was meant to be a part-time course. But it's not. It is full time. There's a lot of hours involved, and as the lads were saying, the reason why it's part time is because you don't have to come into college every day for a set amount of hours. It's up to you to put in the hours at home and to find the time to do it. It's extremely hard. It is at least 20 hours a week. So you have to be really strict on yourself and dedicated to try and keep up with the classes every week. That would be the big thing. The big tip I'd give to anyone starting the course now in January is to keep up with those 3 classes. It's 3 classes a week, and make sure you don't go into the next week without having them done, and keep up with all the labs.
How would your time management have been prior to beginning the course?
Probably not great. I like in the last 6 years, it's just trying to survive.
yeah.
But
Get to the end of the day. Yeah.
But no. Once you come into the course, I'm every day. The minute I drop the kids to school, it's home and straight into study until I collect them. Then and again at night, the minute they're in bed, study for the night.
Right. Okay.
And that's the 5 days a week. And then if we have a big project or anything like that, it's Saturday and Sundays could be taken up too.
And Bernard, would that be similar for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I know it's a big difference from when I done the level 7 to now doing the HDip. So the level 7 was a part-time. I done it by night, so it was 2 nights a week and 1 weekend morning, as Colm said earlier, kind of there in body. You do the lectures, you kind of go home, forget about it. You can do a little bit of work, but you don't really have to, where the HDip is far more engaging. So you have to do the lectures and then you have to do the labs on top of that. And kind of like Sarah was saying, it's very hard to manage the time. I didn't really probably notice it in year 1 because I was working on a week on, week off situation due to the short time. But this year I'm back working Monday to Friday full time. I've noticed a massive shift, I suppose, in trying to manage my time better. And I suppose the level of time it takes to put into the course and then still work Monday to Friday and then still come home to the 2 kids during the night and the weekends and do the housework and everything else that goes with it. So it's a massive undertaking. Like I definitely wouldn't say this is a part-time course. It's just, it's flexible from the point of view as you can do the lectures and labs from the time you can dedicate to it during the week.
Colm, you want to come in there?
Yeah, just jump in there. The reason why it's advertised as part-time is we're not in control of that. There's a springboard course, and this is a springboard offering. So there is only 2 categories on springboard at the moment, full-time and part-time. So full-time indicates that you're present on site.
Monday to Friday.
Okay. So that the only other category is part-time. We'd like to see that change, but that's why it is the way it is.
But that's because it is a funded program. I suppose maybe we should get that in, that you have not had to pay the full price for this course. No. So that's the government initiative. Yeah. So Bernard, you had to pay 10%, was it?
Actually, when I done it was actually completely free.
Okay.
I was one of the lucky ones at the time.
Right.
I just got in the year before they introduced the 10%.
Okay.
So I went from paying full fees doing level 7 to now getting this course for free, which was fantastic. Yeah. So I was lucky enough with that. Like. And
Sarah, you're on a
as a
full
carer,
grant,
you get they pay the full amount for you, so it's fantastic.
Okay.
It's really, I wouldn't be here only for it.
Okay. What have you liked most about the course? Maybe what's been your favourite subject or problem or whatever? Sarah, we'll start with yourself.
I love the programme and web development side of it. I just really love problem solving, creating something from scratch and building it up to a web application. And I'm actually really enjoying the databases at the moment as well. So all that combined, yeah.
And what tools and technologies are you using there?
So you'd be using GitHub. You'll be using text editors. I use VS Code.
It's very popular now. I see all the young people are using VS Code.
Slack. We use Slack every day to communicate with everyone in the class.
Yeah, we might come back to that one in
Yeah.
a second, actually. Yeah.
And MySQL, that kind of stuff. So you're using so much technologies, and there's something for everything out there.
And the programming languages that you're using,
Yeah.
would you have had any experience of those before you began this course?
Yeah, so 20 years ago when I was in Carlow IT, I would have did a small bit of Java.
Yeah.
And then in the Code Institute course I did 2 years ago, I did Python. And now I'm back to Java at the start of the year, and we're doing a small bit of Python again in computer systems and networking.
Okay.
So they're the two kind of languages I've had.
And Bernard, what have you liked most about the course?
Part I like the most is the hands-on experience with it. As I said, when I done the level 7, it was very much do the lectures, go home, maybe do a small bit. But with this, you do it like when the labs may take from an hour to 3 hours, they're very hands-on, and even outside the labs, you can really go on yourself and find more information to kind of make things work better and just gain that knowledge. That's been really good, because rather than sitting there listening just about how something works or how it codes, you're actually understanding, right, I'm actually physically doing it now, and I know why it's doing it and how it's doing it. That's without a doubt been the best part of it, the hands-on experience.
Sarah, you're nodding as well.
Yeah. I suppose first when I did this years ago, it was all theory and you don't really understand it and kind of goes over your head a bit. But with this course, you're doing the practical stuff, and so it makes you understand, oh yeah, that's what they were talking about there. So it's very practical. There's this semester now there is a good bit of theory, but up until now it's been all practical and all assignments rather than theory exams.
Isn't that an interesting development, though, in computing in general across, even from when I was in college? I remember, I've used this before, we had a Borland C++ compiler that we used to swap around on a floppy disk because you just didn't have access to it and it wasn't available.
I won't say what the source of that was.
No. But whereas now most of the tools are free or open source, you know.
Yeah,
Even VS Code it's a Microsoft product, and all the cool kids are using it now.
Yeah, we don't need to pay for software anymore, and we even have to pay very little for the equipment. You know, a good laptop is only 400 or 500 quid, and you're up and running. So the access to the material and the resources are now largely free. The other thing we realised, probably since you were in college, is the understanding that programming is more of a craft rather than a theoretical discipline, and it's practice and imitation. And guidance rather than learning anything by rote or uncovering theory that you can't ground somehow.
Yeah, gone are the days when you learnt off a program for the exam.
Yeah, well, you can't do that, really, can you?
You know.
Well, I mean, I any programming modules that I teach are all 100% CA now. You wouldn't have an exam in it, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are some that still do, but maybe data structures or algorithmic type modules. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we asked you about what you liked. Now here's the bit where you can cut the back off the lads.
Just leave.
What bit have you not enjoyed about the course? And be honest, please.
Falling behind.
Okay.
Definitely. I always try keep up, and it normally goes well. At the start of each semester, the first 3-4 weeks, I keep up on top of everything, and then it starts drifting. You get the first assignment and you start focusing on the assignment as opposed to the labs and lectures. Then you realise you're 2-3 weeks behind in lectures, and then you suddenly have probably 9 hours of material to watch before you even start labs. So that's probably been the part I've disliked the most, I'd say. As regard the modules, I've probably a few that I favour more than others, but that's just personal interest.
You're allowed to have that, though.
Yeah, that's
I mean, that's human,
that's a given,
you know,
like so just course 7, it's just like, I think even with all the best interests, you're going to fall behind at some stage during this course, and it's probably how you deal with that. Then, like, you can get wicked stressed out with it, like, and the key, I'd say, is to not isolate yourself. Is the Slack channel, the communication tool, is to reach out to people on that. Like, you'd often be at home, you're stuck in a problem, you're thinking, I'm the only one that's stuck on this, I'm an idiot, I'm not getting it. You split up a question, you realise 5 or 6 other students are stuck on it, and you just feel so much better with it. Like,
okay, well, sure, look, at this point we might as well add, I was going to ask you about that in a moment. You've touched on it there and it's brought up twice, so we might as well go to it now. So you are largely islands. You're not. It's not like you're in class.
Yeah.
And again, if you're in a group and somebody's having a problem, you can ask the person next to you and they go, I'm having the same problem, or you can go and have a cup of tea and maybe tease it out amongst yourselves. Because you are on your own, how do you foster a kind of a sense of community? amongst yourselves?
I think it's really just getting involved. So we use Slack as the communication channel.
Okay, so what's Slack maybe for somebody who doesn't know?
It's just a communication channel, a bit like Google Chat or it's Google Hangouts, whatever it's called now. It's basically like that, but there's a lot more to it. So like you can share your screen in it, you can kind of send code snippets in it. We have our own channel set up for each course. We have kind of private channels just for students to talk to. So if we're not happy about something, all the lecturers involved in it, they give dedicated time to when they're available on Slack, but often than not, the lads are always available. You could put a question at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and one of them will probably come back with an answer.
Colm.
Yeah, I think pretty much all of them, in fairness. And I think the probably big fear people have with using Slack initially is they don't want to ask a stupid question, but like they always said, there's no stupid questions. Like I've asked many of them, and as soon as you get the answer, you realise, oh, okay, it was stupid, but at least I asked it, now I know where I went wrong.
But if you have a question, there's probably 10 other people who have the same question.
Oh yeah, definitely. And even if you don't want to put it like publicly to everyone in the channel, you can send people like a private message. So you could reach out to maybe a student first who you might know and ask him first. He don't know, right? I'll ask the lecturer, and then you might put it up in the channel. But I think just throw it up there on the channel, let everyone see it, because it makes people more comfortable if they're stuck with something like.
And how maybe I should point out, you're wearing a Red Hat top right now. Okay, Red Hat being a very large company in the area. So you've obviously, you mentioned earlier that you went from kind of working week on, week off to working full time. So you're probably working full time now with Red Hat, is it?
Yeah, I started with Red Hat back in January. On a graduate program out there in the App Dev Centre of Excellence.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been quite fortunate, I suppose, to land on my feet there while I'm still studying, to actually get the opportunity to work there as well.
And Slack, I don't know what they use out in Red Hat, but do you use Slack in Red Hat?
No, we use Google Chat because we try to use everything that's kind of open source. So we try not to kind of pay for any software material.
Okay.
So we use Google Hangouts more so. But I know from speaking to the lads on the course for other companies, a lot of companies are using Slack. So it's very relevant to what you're using in the working world, to what you're using on the HDip course as well.
Yeah. And Sarah, what was your experience with Slack? Had you used anything like that before?
We used Slack in Code Institute last year.
Yeah.
So I was used to it. But I know we had our 2-day in-house during the summer, and a lot of people were afraid to nearly use it. But it's so important if you are starting this year to just get on there and ask questions, because you become so isolated without it. You make great friends on there, and people that you're private messaging for help, and we all help each other, even though we're not sitting beside each other, we're helping each other.
What I find very good about Slack in a classroom context, it's almost kind of like a private social network that you can have stuff going on. I mean, I know I see some Slack channels that I'm a lecturer on, and I'm not going to look at that one, because they're talking about stuff. But it is, I mean, they're working, but they're also playing as well, and I don't mind that. And it's also very searchable, and when you put links and documents into it, it's quite nice. It displays well. I find it very easy to use. I don't know, how do you find it as a lecturer? Maybe Colm or Eamonn, how do you find Slack in that context?
Well, the funny thing was, the origin for Slack for us, using it in the college, was I think 4 or 5 years ago. We were doing a school review, and one of the companies that came in was Red Hat, and they said, why won't you use some of these tools that we have to train all your graduates in when they come in? So we took that mantle up and we started using it, first of all in face-to-face classes, and as we got more familiar with it, then we used it for the online program. So I've personally found it absolutely amazing. We've gone are the days of email threads and trying to find that email, and also we've done a lot of experiments with delivering courses exclusively using Slack. So on some of the other programs we teach, particularly if there's smaller numbers, it works very well for delivering materials, but also for questioning. One of the things that we have learned from delivering this program through Slack, which became apparent at our last on-site day, was people being afraid to ask the question. But that's not an online problem. That's just
in regular class as well. Yeah.
Regular classes, I'm afraid to put my hand up. And a phrase we've used at induction, is the sooner you get over yourself, the sooner you're going to progress faster. And getting over yourself is not being afraid to ask the silly question, okay? Because there are none, as we know. So one of the things that we will be changing in our induction and our orientation is, before it was a lot of detail about here's what the course is and here's what's on the course. Now when we have the students on site, because it's only a couple of times a year, we spend a lot of time now dedicated to enabling them to help each other. And if Slack is one of the tools to allow you to reach out, actually doing that when we have you on site. So using groups in particular, and then converting those groups into channels. So it's just as things develop, we're getting better at it.
I'm just going to apologise to all the listeners. It's Science Week here in the college, and we're actually, our little studio is underneath the auditorium, and I think there's some sort of a show going on upstairs, so you can hear all the thuds and things going on. We're not in an earthquake or anything like that. Eamonn, Slack is an acronym, isn't it, for something?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it then.
I think it is. I think it's single location of all communicated knowledge or something like that. Something. I think they just picked on the name, and then they made the acronym fit the name or something like that.
Yeah, one of the features I like about it, I was discussing them, is, and we use it a lot around projects, is you just press a button and you're talking live to the student, usually on the other side. And that can be voice or voice and video. And it's very simple setup, doesn't take any effort, there's no rendezvous involved. And then we can share a screen immediately as well, if you like, our markup screens.
Yeah.
That's a big productivity boost for us in terms of moving the course along and developing relationships with the students and so on.
Okay.
There is one other example I can give, and that is around assignment time. You have the hand-ups, and it's getting closer and closer to that deadline. We'll often be at home, I'll speak for myself. And you look and say, okay, there's 5 or 6 students haven't submitted yet. Are they in trouble? And it's great to actually just be able to reach out, on a Friday night or a Sunday night or whatever, and say, you in trouble? You couldn't do that in a face-to-face class.
Yeah.
But we can just reach out and say, and very often they'll come back straight away and say, yeah, I'm just stuck on X, Y, or Z. And you just help them to get over that finish line. It's very, although it's remote, it's very personable. And even I've found something that's helped with the students is, it's an hour before deadline. Literally, you can, instead of sending a text message or an email, you can now just ring them, or they can ring you without having your phone number. And that may be all it is required to get that student over the line. We've had a lot of success with that.
Because the flip side, I'm only playing devil's advocate here, is phone calls at 10 o'clock of a Friday night. You could be off having your adventures.
Well, yes, but you know they're working on it because you can see they're active. So you're not going to call them if they're not active. You have a status indicator to indicate whether they're working or not.
Yeah.
Slack isn't engaged until you turn it on.
Yeah.
So you turn off Slack, you're not on Slack.
Yeah. So that's the one thing that I find is very good, actually. I think it was a phrase you used. You're on your phone without being on your phone, if you know what I mean. So it's not like you're giving your phone number to randomers or people in general, and they can message you and you can message them. And sometimes I will have it on of an evening, and other times I just turn that off now, please. I'm watching
Slash away.
No, yeah. Right now, Sarah, we got to ask Bernard the question about what he didn't like. We haven't gone to you, and I'm not letting you out of the studio without getting you to slag off the lads.
Yeah, it's very, very similar to Bernard. It's the time and the stress. It is stressful when you have deadlines of projects, and just it's so time consuming. It takes up all your spare time, and I suppose the modules, like Bernard, I like some modules and not so keen on other ones, and what I like someone else in the course doesn't like. I'm more keener on the program and web development kind of side, whereas some of the other guys just love the networking, that kind of end of things. So and the theory this semester, I wouldn't be keen on that. I'm looking forward to getting those exams out of the way.
Okay, so what is next for you guys, like professionally? I mean, Bernard, you're with Red Hat, so I'm assuming you've kind of found your next role.
Yeah, I'm happy out now. I am.
You would say that, of course.
Yeah, just in case I missed.
Yeah. Well, you've come in wearing the jumper today, so I'm assuming you're like.
I just like swag. That's my kind of thing.
But I mean, what I love about it is, and again, I'm not trying to plumose. I mean, I have no ties with Red Hat, other than I know a lot of people who are in there, same as we all do. Is that it's great to have a company like Red Hat, not very, very physically far away. I mean that, and there's a lot of companies like that now, as you mentioned earlier, about 100 100 names on the books of Crystal Valley Tech. You know, that's brilliant.
Yeah, like I probably didn't realise how big Red Hat were actually till I started working there. I knew him from the Feed Henry stories and been acquiring his success story locally, which kind of never really happened in Waterford before. And then when I got in working there, and I realised how big the company is, like there's 12,000 employees worldwide, and even on the graduate programme we've had the chance to go to like Munich, Vienna, Frankfurt, London. You know, we get to travel, see the world as well. Like it's fantastic, and to have it like to be based 10 minutes from my house, like get up in the morning, rock into work, into this. I think we're voted the third best company in the world to work with recently.
Right, okay.
So to have that on your doorstep and to be able to do it, like, it's fantastic.
Brilliant. And not be dealing with a huge long commute in
Yeah,
Dublin.
exactly. Yeah.
No offence to Dublin, but
No, yeah, and you can see it with Crystal Valley Tech. Like, I think when I was in, I think it was the first year of the HDip course, they had an event out in WIT, and I went out for it, and I didn't realise how many actually companies were based, not just Waterford, but the southeast as well. Like, because I did go to previous recruitment days in Dublin, you see the walls of employers there as well, but there was as many at Crystal Valley Tech as they were up at the Recruit Ireland days, like, and they range from anything in software development to networking to all aspects of IT. Like, it's fantastic.
And Sarah, what's next for you?
Yeah, so next year I'm hoping to get 6 months work experience through the course. So something local as well. And like Bernard, I came to the Crystal Valley Tech Day and the Women in Tech Day here last year. And the amount of companies just within the southeast that are hiring graduates. So hopefully I'll get in with a good company there and maybe get to stay there.
I have no doubt you will. Before we finish up, might kind of maybe talk about some of the other tools and technologies that you work with, because we've talked about Slack a lot, but you're also leveraging other existing platforms like YouTube, for example. Like Eamonn and Colm, you're using a lot of stuff on YouTube. Now, you've built a system, tutors, that we're not going to get into, right? Because that's maybe something for another podcast. But what I like about this system, and bear in mind I've only used it, I'm not tied to it in any way, is that you are leveraging things that maybe some students might have already experienced. So it's not like you have to learn YouTube.
Yeah, we looked at different technologies for how we were going to run our classes. And I suppose top of the list in the entire country was Adobe Connect.
Yes, I have some experience of that.
Right.
Maybe not. Yeah, okay.
And I think in its day it was the best tool around. In its day.
Yeah.
I think 3 weeks into our program, running the first iteration that Bernard was on, we realised that this wasn't up to speed anymore.
Yeah.
We look at the different aspects, the quality. You know, it was standard definition, and we had spent months testing high definition cameras and high definition sound, trying to make the experience as good as it could possibly be. So we looked at alternatives, and we used a program to encode all our video, and then using YouTube as the platform.
Yeah. Now you're using a thing called OBS, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which any gamers might be familiar with.
Well, the motivation for the technologies we were using, when you went out and looked, Adobe Connect was the answer. We tried it, we didn't like it. We looked for something better. So we looked at beauty bloggers, gamers, farm influencers, and worship technologies. There's loads of
worship technology,
evangelists in
right.
in churches.
Right, okay,
And
very good.
we looked at the kit that they were using and
Yes.
the technologies they were using, and should give Pete Windle a mention here, because he was instrumental in looking at all of that.
So that's Pete, who's in the CTEL, or Centre for Technology Enhanced Learning in WIT, yes.
So we worked closely together, and we came up with a set of tools. So OBS and YouTube is what we finalised on. So then we had to go and learn not just how to play YouTube videos, but the whole managing a channel. And of course, YouTube is set up for commenting within the YouTube ecosystem. We had made a decision that all our communications will be through Slack. So a lot of the features that are in YouTube we're turning off, but we are using a couple that are in there, and some of them have turned out to be accidentally really valuable for education. So for example, we have high definition video. We can do live streams. So if I compare, when we did Adobe Connect, we used to screen record our video, used to take pretty much a whole day to get today's class
Yep.
online for tomorrow. When we switch to YouTube, I think it's about 5 seconds after the class finishes. That is a video that's available live on YouTube.
So it's available live when you're doing the class, and then it's available for
Yeah.
callback afterwards.
So I suppose it's a live stream. So
Yes.
we do a live class, and when we stop the class, it becomes a video on YouTube immediately.
Yeah.
And I suppose the really nice trick is that it requires no intervention from the lecturer to turn that live event recording into a video recording. It all happens automatically.
Yeah.
So that's really useful for the students. The other thing then is you get a lot of additional benefits. So you can vary speed. If the lecture's going too slow, because I've done this before, you can speed them up. You can fast forward through different sections on the breaks, for example. And of course, when it's too hard, you can slow them down. Or if you're not native English speaker, you can slow it down so you can follow the conversation.
Have you tried the closed captioning? I've
Yeah,
tried that
just
before
getting
now,
to it.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't work so well with my big thick country accent.
We've had a lot of success with the closed captioning, so it's automatic.
Yeah.
The closed captioning just writes up what the person is saying. It's doing it in real time. So that's great. But what's really nice now is the translations. So you can now have those closed captions translated, but they're also indexed. So you can search for something that the lecturer said in the last hour. It'll find that part in the video, and then you can start listening or watching in that area. And then you can take those translations, convert them into plain text, and make notes out of them.
Okay.
And another area, not on this course, but another area that we're using this for is in thesis, when you're doing research. You can take your interviews, upload them to YouTube as just recordings, get the translation or get the closed captions, and then run with programs like in Vivo. You can find the themes within the text that was discussed during a discussion. So we're getting all these things that YouTube never set out to do, but we're getting all these benefits and all for free.
So there's a lot of unintended consequences to take that. We might discuss some other day that are largely negative, but there's also some positive ones as well.
So it's great. I think I'm a massive fan of this.
Eamon, would you echo that? Or
I would, yeah. And I'd just like to mention one thing that we will start doing, we haven't done yet. It's not technology at all, actually. It's a piece of social engineering as opposed to software engineering. It's a great privilege to work with the guys here. We've 2 cohorts of classes on the go, and it's a great community now of students. There's another group starting in January, and we're pushing this podcast out to that group as well as to the existing groups. One of the things we're finding, and it comes out in the conversation today, is just the whole area of time management for the students is a big thing.
yeah,
So we're looking closely at life coaching expertise, and we're bringing in a life coach, in fact, in January to work with the new class and also with you guys, just to help you think through about work-life balance and organising your time, and maybe even a bit of career planning as well, which we think will address some of the pain points we've had in the last few years and build on some of that experience.
that's excellent. I mean, time management, we would have the regular undergraduates would say that, full-time undergraduates, one of their big problems is time management as well. I'd even say it myself personally. Time management is my big failing, I would imagine.
I could do with a full-time life coach.
Yeah. So we can all hire Eamon as a life coach. Right, I think we leave it there then. I think we've got some really good material for that. So thank you for listening to The Machine. We are available on Machine Podcast.
We need to add this strap line to the end. Due to the number of mentions, Crystal Valley Tech and Red Hat will be sponsoring this.
Chance would be a fine thing. We're on at Machine_podcast on Twitter, Machine Podcast on Facebook, although I never really update it at all. I'm terrible at it. I'd like to say thank you to all our subscribers on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Overcast, or wherever you are listening to podcasts. Please leave us a 5-star review. That would be very, very helpful. And if you like what you hear, tell your friends. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.